Developing story that we're following now, Bishop T.D. Jakes, the leader of Dallas megachurch, the Potter's House, announced today that he will be stepping down. Jakes is a world-renowned pastor. Remember, he suffered a heart attack.
More than 2 million people watched in shock as T.D. Jakes suddenly collapsed during a sermon, leaving an entire congregation frozen in disbelief. What seemed like a routine day of worship quickly became a moment of crisis, turning a milestone celebration into a terrifying ordeal. Behind the scenes, a complex web of health battles, lawsuits, and swirling rumors has threatened to unravel the reputation of one of America's most influential pastors. How did a man known for strength and hope find himself fighting for survival and his legacy? The sudden collapse. On November 24, 2024, a regular Sunday service at the Potter's House in Dallas turned into a moment of shock and fear. Bishop T.D. Jakes was preaching before a packed sanctuary, with millions also watching online, when his voice suddenly stopped. The microphone slipped from his hand and hit the floor, instantly silencing the church. Witnesses said his energy faded within seconds. He began trembling, his eyes rolled back, and his skin appeared gray. The powerful preacher, known for his commanding presence, was suddenly struggling to breathe in front of his congregation. For nearly a minute, the live stream captured the frightening scene, leaving viewers around the world stunned. Inside the sanctuary, panic spread quickly. Congregants began praying loudly, while others cried out in fear. The moment felt even heavier because it happened on the anniversary of the Potter's House's founding, turning what should have been a celebration into a terrifying emergency. Help came fast. A cardiologist seated near the front rushed to his side and checked his pulse. Security activated emergency procedures, clearing space for medical workers. An usher ran to retrieve an automated external defibrillator in less than a minute. What started as a normal sermon became one of the most alarming moments in T.D. Jakes' public life. Paramedics got there within 4 minutes, moving fast, trying to stabilize Jakes' condition with emergency medication and intravenous fluids. The church helipad, installed only a year and a half earlier, turned out to be huge because a helicopter took him to Methodist Dallas Medical Center in a quick 7-minute hop. People watching swore the seconds stretched forever. But the medical response was quick and well managed, like it was built for accuracy too. Once he was at the hospital, Jakes went through a grueling 9-hour surgery, and he received 47 units of blood. His recovery wasn't gentle at all. It included 3 more procedures and 17 days in the intensive care unit. Throughout it all, a steady crew of nurses stayed near him, supporting him through every tense moment. And that really showed how serious the crisis had been. Just hours before, this sudden collapse wasn't only a health scare, it sparked a lot of intense speculation, and it brought up urgent questions, like what could have caused such a dramatic episode on a day that was supposed to be full of joy? At first, the specifics about his condition and why he collapsed were kept under tight control, so the whole situation had this quiet intrigue and a lot of concern around one of the country's most visible religious figures. While the world basically held its breath, the situation became a turning point, not only for T.D. Jakes' health, but for his entire ministry. And what happened next? The story behind the scenes kept unfolding, with harder struggles showing up where his public life and his private fight for survival intersected. The intensity of that day echoes strongly against the backdrop of everything that shaped him, beginning long before the pulpit and spotlight. Childhood trials that built a preacher. T.D. Jakes' roots trace back to 1957 in South Charleston, West Virginia, where he was born into a close-knit family. The youngest of 3 children, his father, Ernest, worked tirelessly building a cleaning business that employed over 40 people. The senior Jakes' hard work took him to large places like the West Virginia State Capitol building and grocery stores, setting an example of dedication for young T.D. His mother, Odith, was a teacher who imparted practical skills such as cooking and sewing, which she ensured all her children learned. These lessons proved invaluable to Jakes later in life, reflecting the nurturing and disciplined environment in which he was raised. Yet, life was not without its challenges, especially during the 1960s, when racial tensions affected many communities, including theirs in Vandalia, a segregated area. When Jakes was just 10 years old, tragedy struck as his father was diagnosed with kidney disease. For 6 years, young T.D. helped care for him amid mounting hardship. This period taught him much about suffering, compassion, and endurance. He would often spend time alone, preaching to his stuffed animals as though they were a congregation, earning the childhood nickname Bible Boy because of his early fascination with Scripture and God. Even in these formative years, Jakes's curiosity about faith was deep. On a trip with his father, he learned that the earth is always moving, even when it feels still, a revelation that stayed with him and sparked reflections on how God works in unseen ways. These early insights laid the groundwork for his lifelong blending of practical understanding and spiritual belief. Adolescence brought its own struggles. Jakes went through a phase where he kept questioning things and sort of drifting from his faith. And then, at one point in the middle of a party, everything shifted. There, singing gospel songs with others stirred up a kind of spiritual awakening. It wasn't quiet either. It rekindled his calling and his sense of purpose. That night felt like a turning point. It pulled him back toward God, even when doubt was still hanging around, like it never fully left. Loss kept showing up in the background of his youth. When he was 16, his father passed away after a long illness, and afterward, Jakes was left grappling with anger and confusion toward God. Around the same time, his mother also fell ill, which forced him to step away from high school just 2 months before graduation, so he could care for her and the rest of the family. Those sacrifices didn't just test him, they shaped his resilience and also sharpened his empathy, especially for people dealing with pain. Even with all that weight on him, Jakes's sense of calling kept growing stronger. It was in that same difficult season that he felt pressed to become a preacher. He was still wrestling with doubts and heartbreak, but he eventually understood that his real purpose was ministry, a commitment that would soon carry him far beyond where he started from, humble beginnings or not. From those roots of struggle and hope, his ministry was ready to take shape on a much larger scale. Building the Potter's House. At just 23, T.D. Jakes planted his first church in Montgomery, West Virginia. What began as the Greater Emmanuel Temple of Faith was far from grand. It started in a small storefront with only 10 members, while Jakes worked at a chemical plant to support his family and ministry. His wife, Sarita, also helped by working as a Christian radio DJ. Money was tight, and the church grew slowly. Jakes played piano for the choir himself, and often joked about how small the congregation was in those early days, but his preaching connected with people because it spoke directly to real struggles. He did not offer distant or polished messages. He offered hope, healing, and faith for everyday pain. In 1983, Jakes held his first conference, drawing only 80 people. It seemed modest, but it marked the beginning of something much larger. His messages, especially about healing and encouragement, began reaching people who felt broken, overlooked, or burdened. The major turning point came in 1996, when Jakes moved his ministry to Dallas, Texas. He brought only 50 families from West Virginia, but his vision was much bigger than the number following him. In 1996, the Potter's House held its first service in a rented building with around 300 people. From there, the growth was explosive. Within 6 months, attendance reached 5,000, leading the church to purchase a 28-acre property for $3,200,000. At its first service in the new location, more than 8,000 people packed the building, proving that Jakes's small storefront ministry had become a national spiritual movement. The church's growth just kinda accelerated. By 1999, they had wrapped up this gargantuan sanctuary, nearly 192,000 square feet, for about $45 million, and it could seat 8,000 people. And somehow, they cleared all that massive debt within 4 years, which really shows the commitment of the congregation and the leadership behind it. After that, the Potter's House sort of evolved past a normal place of worship and more into a global movement, transforming lives in the process. It pulled in diverse members across all races and backgrounds, which felt like it mirrored Dallas itself. By 2005, membership was over 30,000, putting it among the biggest churches in the United States. Plus, the church kept expanding with multiple campuses reaching places like Fort Worth and Denver. Then, alongside spiritual leadership, Jakes built media outlets, wrote best-selling books, and produced films. So his reach went well beyond the pulpit. His mix of sincere preaching and multimedia presence made him pretty much a household name, But it really all started with him stepping boldly into that small storefront. From there, he held on to an unwavering vision to build a community focused on faith and hope. Understanding the foundation of his rise provides context for the challenges that would follow, bringing us closer to the full picture behind the headlines. Controversies and criticisms. Despite his massive success, T.D. Jakes has faced controversies that challenged both his theology and public image. One of the biggest debates surrounds his teaching on the Trinity. Since the late 1990s, Jakes often used the word manifestations instead of persons when describing the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. To some theologians, this sounded close to modalism, the belief that God appears in different forms rather than existing as three distinct persons. The issue became more public in 2012 during the Elephant Room Conference, where pastors James MacDonald and Mark Driscoll questioned him directly. Jakes affirmed belief in one God, three persons, but also admitted he was more comfortable with the word manifestations. While some accepted his answer, others felt his theology remained unclear. Jakes has also been criticized for ties to the Word of Faith and prosperity gospel movements. In 2001, during a Trinity Broadcasting Network fundraiser, he reportedly connected financial giving to receiving blessings like wealth and success. Critics argued this made faith sound transactional, as though giving money could unlock material rewards. His preaching style has divided audiences too. Supporters see him as powerful, emotional, and motivational. Critics say his sermons sometimes lean more toward self-help than biblical teaching. Others have accused him of downplaying sin, repentance, and doctrine, keeping him a respected but controversial figure. Then there's his personal lifestyle, which adds yet more fuel to all of it. Reports of a multi-million-dollar home, luxury cars, and designer clothing led some to wonder whether his public image really matched the humility people expect from spiritual leaders. Even so, Jakes has denied being a prosperity preacher. Still, his programs about wealth building and training future millionaires keep the debate running, like it never fully cools down. He's also taken backlash for how his comments on LGBTQ+ issues have changed over time. In the early 2000s, he talked about homosexuality in terms that many considered harsh. But by 2015, he suggested the Black church and LGBTQ+ community could coexist, even while still saying he didn't support same-sex marriage. That shift unsettled conservatives, but it also pulled in attention from more progressive audiences. By 2022, his sermons questioning traditional gender roles suggested he was more open to cultural change than before. Supporters read that as growth, relevance, and a kind of renewal. Critics saw it as a compromise. Through all of it, Jakes is still a powerful but polarizing figure, admired for his influence yet constantly challenged over his beliefs, his message, and the way he shows up in public. Sometimes the pressures of expanding influence and the demands of public leadership seem to push T.D. Jakes into difficult and controversial territory, setting the stage for the legal battles and rumors that would soon engulf him. Lawsuits and reputation at risk. In 2024, T.D. Jakes faced one of the most serious public challenges of his career when his name became connected to a high-profile lawsuit involving producer Rodney "Lil Rod" Jones and rapper Sean "Diddy" Combs. The lawsuit accused Combs of serious misconduct, but what caught public attention was a claim suggesting Combs intended to use his connection with Bishop Jakes to repair his damaged reputation after abuse allegations from Cassie Ventura. Although the lawsuit did not clearly accuse Jakes of direct wrongdoing, the mention alone triggered widespread speculation. People began looking back at his past public connections to Combs. In 2021, Jakes brought his Kingdom Culture sermons to Revolt TV, a network associated with Combs. Then, in 2022, he appeared at Combs's birthday celebration. These moments, once viewed as ordinary public appearances, were suddenly re-examined under intense scrutiny. By late 2023 and into 2024, rumors spread rapidly online. Anonymous posts claimed Jakes had attended private parties linked to Combs, though no solid evidence supported these accusations. Still, the rumors damaged his image and created doubt among some viewers. His initial silence only fueled more questions, allowing speculation to grow even louder. On April 15, 2024, Jakes spoke up about the whole controversy during that streamed Sunday sermon. And honestly, it was pretty direct. He strongly denied any involvement in Combs's alleged actions, and then he called the accusations these false attacks, meant to ruin his ministry and his reputation. The tone was firm, though, he kept saying he wouldn't let rumors write his legacy, or somehow define it for him. And it kind of felt like he was drawing a line right there. A few days later, Jakes reportedly answered back with legal action. That meant filing a major defamation lawsuit against Rodney Lil Rod Jones, plus separate lawsuits aimed at online channels accused of spreading unverified claims. On top of that, he pushed for accountability from platforms that, according to him, let damaging rumors keep moving around with no real checks. To try and restore trust, Jakes set up an independent board made of leaders and legal experts. They were tasked with reviewing the allegations. He provided access to church records and personal documents, framing the whole thing as transparency, not a vague "trust me" situation. He also opened the Potter's House financial records for review, and then added annual background checks for senior church leaders, like that was part of the process now. Still, even with all of that, the damage was not easy to shake. The controversy put pressure on Jakes's reputation, his ministry, and his decades-long public image. For someone known for faith and influence, this turned into more than just a legal fight. It became a personal trial: credibility, resilience, and, honestly, survival. These controversies and legal fights were just part of a larger journey, one that would soon reveal his determination to recover both his health and his mission. Recovery and resilience. After his collapse on November 24, 2024, T.D. Jakes entered one of the most difficult seasons of his life. What began as a frightening medical emergency became a long road of healing, discipline, and renewed faith. Hospital care, surgeries, therapy, and a strict recovery plan tested his body, but his determination remained strong. Even in weakness, Jakes refused to let the crisis define him. During recovery, he stayed tied to his calling. While still stuck in bed, he had dictated a fresh book, Reborn, Finding Strength in Life's Valleys, and basically turned his pain into a clear message of hope. The book soon found its way into many hands, showing that his voice stayed strong even when he was at his most fragile moments. On December 18th, only a few weeks after the collapse, Jakes appeared, sort of like out of nowhere, through a video call with his congregation. He was still on the mend, yeah, but his message came out steady, full of gratitude, grit, and faith. That moment really buoyed people up, and it also gave supporters the push they needed to send donations, bringing in millions for the hospital's cardiac unit. You could almost feel how close his community was to him, like nobody was standing back. Not really. By New Year's Eve 2024, Jakes made a strong return to the pulpit at the Potter's House. He was thinner and visibly changed by everything he went through, but he still carried the same fire and conviction, the same kind of insistence. His sermon, The Comeback King, moved thousands who were there and millions watching online. In a way, it became a sign of survival and renewal for a lot of people. His recovery also brought changes inside the ministry. Jakes made things more transparent, opened the financial records for review, and backed stronger accountability among the church leaders. Those choices seemed like they were meant to rebuild trust and keep moving forward with integrity. No gloss and no shortcuts. Throughout it all, his wife Sarita and their children stayed right there as a steady source of love and support. T.D. Jakes' comeback reminds us that even powerful leaders get hit by pain, but with faith, family, and resilience, getting up again is always possible. T.D. Jakes' story is one of remarkable strength, faith, and resilience in the face of life's hardest trials. From a sudden collapse to a powerful comeback, his journey reminds us that challenges can fuel growth and transformation. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more insightful videos exploring the lives of influential figures and their untold stories. Your support means a lot. And before you go, watch the next video on your screen to uncover another powerful story of faith, struggle, and triumph.